Crest Necropolis Rio session 11. All right, yeah, I've successfully unmuted myself, so we can proceed. Okay, so last time, does either of you want to give a short recap of what we did?
Go on, Matthew, take it away.
I was saying to you, John, because I was gesturing for you, the
Just
man who.
throwing you under the bus.
I'm part of the secret corps, man. I don't tell anything.
Yeah, well, very basically, what we did last time is both Sobek and Khufu sort of split off to go and see their respective sort of groups that they're becoming more intertwined with. For Khufu, it was the Orishas, the Arisen sort of Meret or group that has co-opted the sort of local voodoo religion, and they pose as the Orishas of that pantheon. I met up with Ogun, as he styles himself, the leader of the Orishas, and I asked to join up basically, and he was like, "Well, yeah, maybe, but you've got to like prove you're part of, you're willing to like get in with the Orishas." And it was agreed that in order to get myself signed up, he wanted me to free not only my own servant from the urban pacification force that's currently keeping him on lockdown, but also wanted me to visit a hovel in the Tiuca National Park that he wanted me to burn down. Now, I know that this hovel is where Hassani, who is my guildmaster, has his cult based. So I'm currently working out what I want to do with regards to that. Sobek went off to see Bantanath, who is the leader of the secret court, and he went to the spankingly shiny Brazilian Academy of Letters, dedicated to promoting Brazilian literature and their language. They met in a nice palatial room. They had a bit of a chat. I've not kept notes on that bit because I wasn't there, so I wouldn't know about any of that. But they discussed various secret court dealings, and we've talked a bit about how it's possible that our various associations may sort of cause the two brothers to drift in different directions, because the secret court's all about manipulating things from behind the scene and keeping a very low profile, but having this power, but they wield it skillfully, whereas the Orishas are more sort of, they feel younger in terms of the Arisen, they're more straightforward. They're like, right, we need this doing, we need to get it done. They're the sort of like the fiery, like revolutionaries is how I sort of got the vibe from them. So it's ironic that I think that Sobek's ended up with the Hidden Court and I've ended up with the Orishas, because if you look at the characters originally, I think Sobek seems more like the lively, like let's go out and do stuff guy, and I'm more like I'm following the laws as passed down by the judges and doing my thing quietly in the background. But we've sort of ended up like flipped around with the associations we've got, and we're saying,
just really like admin.
yeah.
Oh, the laws and the courts and you don't understand these pillars. They're more than just names.
Well, we've been sort of like saying
Foundations.
like, how that may start moving us in opposite directions, but we'll see. And basically, we sort of regrouped afterwards, and we're now sort of considering our next move.
Yep. And we've established that having both of these characters purchase more memory with their spendable experience points, we're going to do another flashback. So we're gonna jump right into it. So we fade out on the sort of reunion in modern day, which is to say 2016, at the very beginning of the carnival in Rio. We fade away, and again we get the title card, March 1808, Rio de Janeiro. And there's a bit of a sort of primer here that I put down. So Napoleon Bonaparte has led his grand army into Portugal, most of Portugal's royal court, including the royal family itself, has fled to Rio de Janeiro to establish a government in exile. Thousands of nobles, their families, and their trusted servants have arrived to the colony. Rio was transformed practically overnight as new government buildings and new estates were rushed into construction. The colony had never seen the kind of opulence before. Many of the new buildings necessitated razing entire neighborhoods, and taxes soared to pay for the expansion of services. So Rio, as it stands currently, is a colony of the Brazilian kingdom. The main sources of wealth in the colony are, well, to a lesser degree now, but still sugar. Sugar plantations are a large part of Rio, but still gold and silver mining have been sort of they're come to the fore in more recent centuries. But it started with sugar. Sugar is still there, but now we also have the riches of the earth, which the Brazilian kingdom has exploited recently. But now, with Napoleon's Peninsular War, Portugal is lost, and the government of Portugal is now in Brazil. And with the nobles, as mentioned before, comes great change. Everything will change forever for Rio after this visit, because previously it was a colony, and now it is being transformed into the de facto capital of the kingdom with great haste. So everything is in uproar in Rio. There's great upheaval. As mentioned before, the sort of, at least the less well-to-do neighborhoods in Rio are just being put to the torch to clear the land for new construction. People are being tossed out of their homes. Eminent domain is not really a concept yet because it's divine right currently. So the king says, "Here shall be our court," and thus it was. And of course, the king puts the bill to the people of the colony as well. So there's a great amount of resentment currently with the original quote-unquote colonists here because of all this upheaval. But of course, there are those who are quite satisfied as well that the colony is gaining more stature because of this, even though they mourn for for Napoleon's conquest of Portugal. But along with the nobles and their servants and the great wave of change, have arrived new arisen as well. This is the time when the secret court, the O Corte Segredo, arrived to Rio. They arrived with the Portuguese court, basically. Khufu, Sobek, Kasmut were already here. And we are going to cut into a beachfront celebration. And I have a picture here. It's not a photo, unfortunately, because it's from a long time ago. But here is an impression of what the Botafogo beachfront was like in those times. So if you click on it, it will enlarge it because it's fairly big and it shrinks it down. But you can see the beachfront boulevards there, the sort of colonial architecture, which some of that is being demolished in favor of new construction, and others are just being sort of refurbished for different usage. But this is, and let me, if you zoom out of the picture there, I will ping on the map. Botafogo is here. So that is this beach front here. And Botafogo is familiar to you from your 2016 days as well. It is, of course, quite close to your own House of Repose and Restoration. It's modern days. It's part of the sort of central Rio, even though it's far away from the actual like old town, which is now the beating heart, the downtown of Rio. But Botafogo is very much a case of soaring buildings and touristy environs, and there's a beach there as well. It's not the glorious beaches of Copacabana and Ipanema, but still a well-to-do district in modern day. But this picture that I just showed you is where we are currently, and somewhere in the Botafogo beachfront, we cut into Khufu, Sobek, Kasmut, and Teshregemet in the midst of a celebration. When the king arrived, along with the court and several other ships of nobles and their servants, they began a celebration that thus far has lasted for several days. So amidst the construction, the hurried, frenzied construction, you have thousands of nobles and their associated servants who are celebrating the fact that the king has arrived to Rio. And we have the group of the four of you standing at the beachfront, and behind you is one of these colonial buildings with the white facade. There are laborers everywhere, absolutely everywhere. There's building supplies being stacked around each corner, just enough so that the staff attending to the nobles can keep up with the demands of the celebrations, which again, this is, I want to say this is the 5th day straight of just these nobles celebrating with as much opulence as possible their new arrival here. And you see these sort of construction workers, they work around the clock really, because the mansions need to get built. So behind you, you hear both the sounds of serving folk gathering supplies for whatever celebration they're attending to, and also the banging, clanging, and sawing of construction crews as they create the new mansions for the nobility. And let's see, you're standing there. You'll feel free to have any sort of, if you want food, drink, whatever, feel free to have that to hand. However, you're standing at the one of these boulevards here at the beachfront, looking down. There's it's not as developed as in the picture here. There's still like a slice of sand there, and they're serving people who have put down fire pits on which they prepare roasts and things. And it's evening time, and the servants on the beach especially cooking a moonlit dinner. And for said dinner, you can see that, again, once more, this evening as well, the serving folk are going to the ships that have arrived here, and they're carrying out fancy tables and chairs. They're carrying out the silverware and the tablecloths, and they're setting a moonlit dinner on the beach sand for the nobles as the night goes on. So you're here. We're going to cut to you to sort of being there as a part of this whole ordeal, this change, observing it. And I think Teshregemet is there with a flagon of wine, sipping at it. Yep, jump.
Have we been? Is this like a Sothic turn, or have we been raised by our cult?
This is not a Sothic turn. You have been raised by your cults to attend. Actually, your cults have raised you because Teshregemet asked your cults to get you.
Right, okay.
Because
We've had a party invite.
She had learned that, something has happened in Europe. The king is coming with the court. We need to be out
You ready?
for this. So Teshra Gemet contacted your cults, and they have raised you up.
Is she known as the Red Sparrow at
Yes.
this stage? Yeah. Okay.
Yes. O Par del Vermelho, as far back as you can remember in this time as well.
Okay, so when I know from previous, when we're raised by our cult, we have like an imperative, which is like what we've been raised to do. So what's our imperative for this time period?
Teshra Gemet asked for your help.
Okay, so they just raised us saying, would you mind
Yep.
helping out Teshra Gemet?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Yep. Yeah, it's literally Teshra Gemet was saying, "Oh, we need to be on this. I need everyone on board. So please get your masters and have them come to me. We'll address this thing." Yeah. So so there's a certain amount of drive there because of the call imbuing you with this purpose, of course. But at the same time, as you remember this, you reminisce on this memory, you do feel that this is quite a bit more than that. It's not just the call like propelling you to work with Teshra Gemet. As you sort of quietly discuss the ongoing everything amongst yourselves, it becomes clear to you that this is the normal expected state of affairs. It seems like the four of you have it might not exactly, you wouldn't necessarily call it a merit by yourselves, but that's just because Teshra Gemet wanted to keep the title away from it all. So it's more or less a merit that you guys have
an
formed.
implied merit.
Yeah, so there's like a connection between us.
Yeah, it's more of a conspiracy than oh, we are working together. Of course, people can figure that out, but Teshra Gemet was, well, we need to be subtle about this. So,
and of course, this is back in the days before we knew what a massive honking bell-end Kasmut is.
Nothing says, subtle than a nice beach pie. Where's Appet Mendes then?
Oh,
where's Ibsheta? Sorry, he'd be all over this.
They've just arrived.
I was going to say, you best believe they've just blown in on this wave of like aristocracy.
Yeah.
Just arrived.
Yeah, okay. And this is So you're there enjoying the festivities, and I suppose we're going to start with Teshra Gemet like putting her wine down and just sort of like nodding towards you to get your attention, and nods at the beachfront like debauchery that is going on with the nobles, and she says, "Well, what do you make of it then, my friends?"
Can I just bring up one point in reference?
Yeah, please.
Since John has a habit of clothing us, for his thing.
Yeah.
I suggest that we've kind of got like a naval kind of outfit going, like like a hornblower, like.
And I will actually say, not only do you have that, but it is antiquated, because you used to wear that a long time ago.
What Sekam level are we at the moment?
She would have raised you well before they got here.
Yeah, because I was going to say, I assume she would have been like, which fancy them as uber powered, like memory starved, like undead.
Yeah, attending like these.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Fools. So I'm gonna say, let's go with a nice 5 at this point.
Okay.
Cool. You spend a whole bunch of time now being awake for this event.
So I'm mainly asking for your benefit, Matthew, because all of my stuff I can use at low levels. So
I can use Blessed is the God King at low level too. It's just not as grandiose.
It's not as blessed.
It's more of a guideline.
Enhanced is the God King.
I'm also going to be drinking. So you mentioned that I'm going to be drinking a nice spiced rum, I think, this time period, and one of those really obnoxious cigars. So I'm like a 1970s Vice almost, but in 1808.
Yeah, 1970s Vice in 1808.
I imagine I will be attired like as you might have like I don't know, whatever the equivalent of a funeral director or someone like that is of this era.
a Catholic priest.
Yeah, so quite somber, quite severe looking sort of clothing. Probably sets quite an opposition to the no doubt flamboyant sort of hornblower.
I look like I'm part of
the
admiralty, as if they want me to participate in any kind of law function here, and I can.
Yeah, as I mentioned, I've got like the severe sort of black gear, like the thick, like starched collar, very severe looking, like you say, looking almost like a priest, might say like the last rites at a funeral or something similar. So I've not mellowed out quite as much in this era as I will do later on.
Maybe you've just forgotten how to mellow out.
That's it.
No, we've got a period where, and I'll if they're here, I'll start greeting the Arisen. Oh, well, I suppose I can tell right away if they're who's Arisen and who's not. That's how
you can tell when other Arisen are near.
I'm going to be, whilst you're doing your meet and greet, obviously I'll be walking next to you, but I'm going to more sort of, as I will do in the future, using like various means, but in this period of time it'll probably be like, I don't know, like on a parchment or whatever.
Obviously,
I'm going to be like recording the details of what's going on.
If I meet any alchemists, I'll be a tad frosty, just a tad. But I want them to know.
So in this time, how clear have you made your distaste for alchemists to Tetragrammet? And is that a thing for you at all?
I think yeah, she'll know of it. I won't lie about it, naturally. It's not my ilk. But I don't think, unlike my brother, who will know just how much I hate them.
Yeah, what we're basically asking is, are you stood there going like, well, obviously it's not my way to throw shade on any different types of arisen. Alchemists suck.
It's just more like if I meet an alchemist, I'd be like, well, I think you probably should speak to the Red Sparrow, for I am not really the appropriate person for you. Get out of my sight.
I'm not a part of that culture myself.
Yeah. Like I said, the further back we go, the more like annoyed I am by them.
So as we're sort of walking around, I'll be at some point I'll walk, as I'm still chronicling what's going on. I'll walk up to Tasha or Gammet and obviously greet her, and then I'll say, "So you have asked our cult to awaken us for our assistance. What is it precisely you require assistance with, Red Sparrow?"
This would be when every one of you is in earshot, so like talking as a group. She says, we have these visitors to account for, as well as a Meret, which I expected at least one of them. We have received only one, so that is good. We can probably manage that with minimal difficulty. However, they style themselves as Corte Segredo, and we will need to make some changes. I have established that they have 2 scribes in their ranks. So therefore, I would suggest we make the following alterations to our agreement. Khufu, you have been attached to the Orishas. Given the recent events on that front, I would ask that you continue to do so. However, Sobek, John.
So I was just going to ask, because obviously this will, as we're sort of remembering this in the future, this will potentially have an effect. Because obviously in the future they're like, if you want to join the Orishas. So do I know? Am I a member of the Orishas at this time?
No, you're not, but you are a sort of
I really hope
attaché
this is where
as
you
far
mess
as
up
that
your-
goes. You're sort of associate.
Because I've got to admit, once I remember this, I'm tempted to like walk up in the future and be like, check yourself. I've been associated with your Meret since like 1808.
I just like the idea that you actually somehow flub joining them in the past. Like you do something that really annoys one of them.
But the idea is, as far as you remember, is that, and you remember it quite clearly, even though it's a very narrow thing that you remember, but it's crystal clear. The idea is that once again, as Teshrugemet was sort of implying in the future that, oh, sorry, I just remember what we were about. In this time as well, you remember it clearly that you, Sobek, Kasmut, and Teshrugemet, explicitly you have some kind of plan. You've made a sort of conspiratorial agreement to maintain the stability in Rio. And that includes yourself, Sobek, yourself, Khufu. You, because of your interests, maybe you don't recall exactly how it started, but it would stand to reason that because of your interests and because of your guild, you would naturally be a sort of above average fit to sort of associate with the Orishas. And so that is what has happened. So you are more or less the station chief for your little conspiracy here that attends to the Orishas and sort of tries to find out as much about them as possible for the benefit of you four here, and ostensibly to the benefit of the stability that the four of you are pursuing in Rio. So that's what Khufu, you remember being about. And you, as Teshrugemet says, the new developments on that front. There's recently been a leadership change that you're aware of in the Orishas, which we'll get back to later on. But so you've been basically the spy for your four mummy group here at the Orisha camp. And Sobek, you've been doing the same thing with the first Meret. That has gone not well because of the nature of the first Meret, which is to say they are somewhat passive, to say the least. They want to keep a distance. They don't seem to be involved a lot. So in some sense, you've had a fairly easy go of it, because the first Meret, as far as you remember from this time, they're not doing much. And
not that I can tell.
Yeah, not that you can tell. And they seem to be in repose more than most. So that's been your experience, and we can talk more about the members of said Meret later on. And Kasmut hasn't been assigned a Meret to attend to because these are the Merets currently in Rio. So currently, as far as you remember, in 1808, in Rio, there was the first Meret, the Orishas, and the sort of unofficial third Meret comprised of the rest of you, which is in existence to like spy on the rest of the Arisen in order to like keep things in check. And Kasmut has been sort of tasked, because you attend these other Arisen and spy on their cults and associate with their cults and find out about them. Kasmut has been tasked with hunting Amkata around the larger sort of Rio area. So he goes around not only the settlement itself, but the various plantations and whatnot. He does like a long route and tries to keep like random Amkata in check.
Interestingly, is the Sugarloaf Mountain roster established at this point, or is that to come?
Yes, it is a thing that exists currently as well.
Okay,
but cool. There is the role of prosperity does exist. Yeah.
So I guess as I'm a representative of the scribes here, am I one of the most senior members at this point in time? I don't know if Bantanaf's about at this point. She's my
Well,
master.
the secret court have just arrived,
Yeah.
and you are being retasked from the first merit to Ocorte Segredo because there are scribes there. So Teshregema thinks you'll be better fit there.
Naturally.
And Kasmut is being retasked from Amkata hunting to attend the first merit.
So if I was the main scribe in this area up to that point, does that mean I would have been involved with the Red Sparrow and obviously Khufu naturally in how we arrange for territory to be given or negotiated for these arisen? Because essentially we're slicing up our own area of influence and giving it to them.
And
how would that work?
And of course, that is something you have been involved in, and it too is sort of driven by Teshregema. So when new mummies have arrived, and you remember that they have arrived over the years, you're not exactly sure on like who came about when, because memory is shit. So currently in 1808, you don't exactly recall who came when. But when new mummies have arrived, they always talk to Teshregema first, and then it's like there's the sort of dance in figuring out where they can fit in. So this is exactly what you're doing right now as well, because Teshregema has brought you here to back her up as she does this with the secret court as they arrive from Europe. And this is sort of like we're getting to that point, but this is the retasking. So Sobek, you can go to the secret court, you can get friendly with them. Khufu, you can keep doing whatever you're doing with the Orishas, and Kasmut is going to go attend to the first merit, and we're going to have first quote unquote official meeting with the secret court as soon as we like. Here amidst the festivities of the nobles. So if there's things you want to establish, if you want to talk amongst the four of you, we can do that. However else, we're going to proceed to hanging with the secret court. Yeah. You're muted, Matthew.
Yeah, I was considering what I was going to say first. I'll make sure I'm a known presence to everyone, so I'll make sure I take time to talk to everyone, even the alchemists. You know, as misguided as they are.
There's no alchemists.
It's good.
In Rio. Let me actually make that a certainty before I. Yeah, there's no alchemists that you're aware of aside from Teshregema.
Good.
You seem to recall there have been some who have come by, but they've always left. They've always fucked off.
Yeah.
So I'll be saying to Teshregema, so this meeting with this Corte Segredo, where is the meeting to take place? Here?
We're going to meet on one of the piers here, and she points at one of the sort of noble fleet has occupied the Gonabar Bay, and she points out like we're going to meet them there. I've arranged it.
Very well. As per our agreement, myself and my brother are here to assist in any way that we can. Please lead on.
And always it is appreciated. And between the two of you, aside from the conspiracy, including the four of you, at this point in time, there is a strong understanding that you recall that, in fact, there is a third merit, and it's you two and Kasmut. You three form a merit which is far more natural than the one that Teshregema has put together, taking the three of you and saying, you guys are my friends, or something like that. You don't recall how this started, but Teshregema is pretending that the four of you are not a merit, and the three of you know that you absolutely are one, and have been for some time. You collaborate closely. You have your own tomb. Kasmut has his own tomb away from you, but yeah.
I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do a thing though. I'm guessing I wouldn't. Actually, I probably wouldn't have my utterance at this point in time. I got that in the future, so
Well, you could have forgotten it.
it's true.
Which one are we talking about?
Blessed is the God King, but
Yeah.
I don't need it now. I'm not gonna rip a fleet apart. But I'm gonna walk amongst the ships, like the harbor. My idea is obviously being obviously new people are arriving. My only concern is that perhaps a mummy or something else might try and stow away and kind of sneak on to this continent while we're busy with these negotiations. So I'm just trying to see if I can pick up anything else, anything that I haven't already met. And probably it's probably unlikely because they wouldn't be stupid enough to do that. But especially with all the other arisen around, we pick them up like a radar. But you never know.
Okay, give me a wits investigation as you prowl the dockside areas for stowaways.
Investigation. Okay. I know how to roll dice.
One success. Well, it is enough, and you have God sight. Is that the one you're using?
All of the sites I can use at once without having to burn through my willpower right now.
I think God sight is the one that is applicable to the most.
Because I've got God sight, I've got Eyes of Justice, and I've got Enhanced Senses.
Yeah. So God sight is the one that would apply here. There is, as you walk towards this pier that you're supposed to meet the court at, you pick out one group of somewhat inebriated nobles that are trying to play it off like we're not really that drunk, and they're making nice because they're talking to a priest. So they're trying to be like, yes, we're not partaking of the festivities too much.
The bad stuff.
Yeah. So they're sort of being they're kind of suffering because they have this priest in their little discussion group there standing on one of these beachfronts on the boulevard, and there's just, you get the feeling that they want to go away from the priest so that they can get their freak on like the rest of the nobles. But the priest seems to be quite good at not letting them go. There's a lot of sort of discussion tactics that you might actually appreciate if you stop to listen to him work these people with his words. But as you make note of this, like, oh, this is a man who is quite good with the verbal arts, really, because he's like, these people are clearly wanting to go away and they cannot do that. Because your God sight doesn't tell you what things are. It just gives you the impression of something related to them. There's a sense of waves that you get from looking at this man who is dressed in the black of a priest, of a Catholic priest, and there is one thing which isn't particularly usual is that this man is wearing a very stylized gold and pearl cross of the Order of Christ, which is also by this point in time kind of like the national symbol of Portugal. So it's the sort of equal length cross. So this like checkmark cross type, not the crucifix, but the like equal bars
I've seen
in
this
red.
before, I take it.
Yes, you've seen this before, and actually right now you get a sense of waves from the man, and you there's more to that vision, but then your eyes set on the crucifix, the cross of the Order of Christ, and you remember something else in 1808. So you're remembering this inside your memory. We're going deep. you
Am I about to meet Leonardo DiCaprio?
You're transported from the waterfront in Rio to some different time, and you get the smell of dry earth, dust being kicked up. It's sort of suffocating, the feeling of like a lot of dry dust in the air, and the mirage sort of congeals hazily in your mind's eye, as you, aside from the dry dust choking you up, you smell blood, feces, death, immediate death, bloody murder, and you feel and see people running this way and that, and there are soldiers with stained tabards bearing the Templar cross, which is very similar to the cross of the Order of Christ. And these soldiers seem to be wading through what your mind's eye interprets as a deluge of bodies and blood, and you remember absolute crushing desperation that you felt at this moment in time, wherever in time this was. And then the vision passes, and you're back in the waterfront in Rio, and it's very apparent to you, being quite good at symbols, because that's writing. You can draw clear parallels between the cross of the Order of Christ and the Templar cross that you just remembered from some other time. So like you can see the same design, but it's further iteration, like centuries down the line. It seems to be based on the Templar cross. You intuit this with your...
These people are steeped in blood.
And you get the sense of the waves from this man, and you get the feeling that you kind of had in the little mirage that you just experienced as well. You smell blood from this man, and there's a feeling of hollowness to him somehow. You can't quite put your hand on it, like, or your finger on it, like what that is, but there's something missing from him, and you smell waves of blood wafting off of him.
Not supernatural. He doesn't like
Yes.
come across as...
Yes, he is supernatural to the max.
Okay. I thought meant the symbol itself was the thing.
No, the symbol isn't the thing. It's the man himself. The symbol reminded you of this other memory, but the man is the thing that your God sight is giving you these impressions of. He's not an arisen.
Okay.
You could tell that immediately.
Have I ever encountered this before? Do I know what this hollowness is? I mean, out of game, I think I know what it might be, but like,
give me an intelligence occult.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's see.
Over that cult.
Mm-hmm.
Intelligence. Cool. I just want you to know I'm super intelligent, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Is it good? All right. Yeah. 2-6. I'm getting up there.
Yeah, and because of your intuition here, and it's something you've met before as well, but you don't remember it until just now as you think on this, like these impressions that you just received. You think this might be something that you've come to know as a Heartless. So this is a creature that in your cosmology, your understanding, and it is not an exact understanding, but the scraps that you put together that you just remember now as you look at this man, is that you call these things Heartless, the Heartless, and they are lifeless in their own way. And they are terrible. They are a kind of blasphemy, being lifeless by themselves. And also they are quite terrible in their strength sometimes. You don't quite know how that works for them, but they can be extremely formidable. You seem to recall, not having any exact idea of how or why, but yeah. And there's more. So
oh my.
As you take this in, because your like mind is kind of taking in a lot of information currently, you also note that as he's clutching a Bible to his chest, as he's discussing things with these nobles, you note that the Bible is in fact a text artifact. It is infused with Sekhem.
Oh, you left that to last, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
Oh.
So this Heartless, this walking blasphemy of potentially quite terrible power, is carrying an artifact.
Allow me to update my notes.
Mm-hmm.
Update my journal.
Something important to note there.
Caps lock on. Okay.
Yep.
Can I get an idea what the relic does, or I don't have to touch it, don't I?
No, because it's text, right? This is the one thing that your eyes do.
Yes, finally. Yes.
Yeah. So you can make your roll to figure out what the text does.
Okay.
Because you understand the mysteries of your cult, which your guild.
Story and power with a successful intelligence, academics, or occult. Okay.
Yeah. So you pick make your roll.
Intelligence and occult. I think you'll find. Because, yeah, I got 2 successes.
All right, yeah. You gain an intuitive understanding just because of the way that your eyes, your supernatural sight, can understand the Sekhem within the book itself. So it is indeed a relic, and you get the sense that it can be used to sort of grind a person's spirit down so that they become I suppose like it's a way to slice off parts of a person,
like a subjugation type thing, like you.
Not necessarily. It's more about grinding away than subjugating. Okay. It's sort of sanding off parts of a person.
So this is probably not something from a realm itself. This is one of the
no. They didn't make Bibles in the realm. This is a later manufacturer. But whoever made this, it's a masterwork. This is how these things are made. Someone with the requisite like virtuosity and capability, probably in the magical arts, has actually managed to make this at some point in time. It doesn't look particularly new. It's a handmade Bible, but yeah, you can. It can be used to, in game terms, affect a person's self in the way that you can take away their virtue and vice, and just like take those away and leave nothing there. So sort of like spiritual amputation of a kind is the power that you can use on with this. And does it say you get the idea for the curse? Because all these things are cursed.
I don't know about the you get a sense of its story, power, and curse with a successful.
Sure. Yeah. So the curse as well. You get the understanding that as a counterpoint, it will curse the user, the wielder who owns the thing, who is in contact with the thing, will suffer a curse which causes them to become quite fanatical about their own these fragments that it can be used to grind away in other people. You will become fanatical about your own similar things. So in game terms, like obsession with your own virtue and your vice. Now, you know, because this is a relic of your guild, the effect is lesser to you. You would have a choice in obsessions. Like, you could steer the obsession to either virtue or vice. Anyone else having it, using it, is obsessed with like performing their vice and their virtue to a great degree.
Right.
So they become more than like your sort of aspects of your personality. They become your personality with a capital P.
Super
So if your vice is wrath, that's what you are all the time.
Oh dear. Okay, so here's the thing, though, right? I'll be honest. This is a lot more than I expected to get.
Yeah, I guess that's what you didn't expect, but that's what I wrote down.
Yeah, so. I was like, that's a relic.
Yep.
We're all about those relics. I want that relic.
If only you knew someone who was like Mr. Undead Senses.
Yeah. But here's the thing: is my inclination is just go over there and take that relic because I'm an arisen. He's not an arisen. You know what I mean? And this is our land, our home. They've come to. However, I'm aware enough to know that this person is either an individual acting on some agenda of their own, or is with someone here, and by doing that, I could cause a bit of a diplomatic kerfuffle, considering this is meant to be a delicate kind of first contact, right?
Yeah. So if there's anything you four have been about in the recent decades that you remember in 1808, is that you've tried to keep things cool. Your first priority is don't make waves. Like, hold on to the status quo.
The unfortunate thing is, as well, my judge is all about bringing the transgressors against the divine to heal. This is an undead, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, it's lifeless. You can tell that
thing that needs to be obliterated. So this is not going to be easy. Do I get any indication of who they've came with? Like, are they with?
No, it's just the priest talking to a bunch of nobles who don't seem to be familiar with him from before. Like, he's harassing these people.
They've probably been smuggled across in some ship in some sort of long wooden box. You know, maybe maybe in like experimental
dirt
earth.
in. Yeah.
Do I engage? Do I go? Is the guy aware of me? Has he noticed my presence?
No. He's completely focused on doing the dance with these people.
I'm gonna see if I can track down Khufu.
Oh yeah. You're sort of walking as a loose group along the promenade to where you're going, because you're gonna meet the court.
I'll call him over and explain to him, that guy over there, he is wrong. He's empty. He is not mortal. He is not arisen. He needs to be stopped. But we need to know who he's working for, and that relic belongs in our tomb.
Okay, so my immediate response is going to be to activate my Death Sight affinity, which I've handily got the rules written down here.
I honestly thought I wasn't going to find anything. I was like, I'll have a look around. I'll just have a look.
So basically, I get a wits plus investigation plus shoot.
Yep.
Against the target's resolve plus composure. Failure means the mummy learns nothing. I'm just trying to find out what it says you actually get when you succeed. I'll find that out in a minute because it might not be necessary if I don't succeed. Okay, so wits, investigation, then I'll be another 3 dice on top. Only 2 successes.
Yeah, I'm looking up the thing now so we can figure out.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, so failure means the mummy learns nothing, and the player must pay 1 willpower per subsequent attempt if you want to try again.
Yeah.
And scanning a possessed host. Possessed being evaluates the possessing entity, not the host. Okay, yeah, because it's basically all about the undead every time. So. Reduces the target. What does it do though? You can proceed. I guess that's the thing.
It says here I gain a limited form of soul sight, so I get to know what their vice, morality, and their shadow rating is if they have one.
Right, yeah. So you can basically, one, you can spot the undead, and two, you can use soul sight on the undead, I guess.
Yeah.
In this
That's pretty much it, really.
Yeah.
So I know if they're undead, and I get the soul sight on them.
Yeah. So let me. Oh, is it soul sight altogether? Yeah, it is. Okay.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm looking that up.
Like I say, it does say it's a limited form of soul sight. I only get the vice, morality, and shadow rating.
Yeah. Vice, morality, and shadow rating.
And obviously, I know if they're undead as well. But I've pretty much established that. Yeah.
Yes.
In fact, I've already wrote down in my notes. I'm like undead.
Yeah. So yeah, it is clearly a lifeless thing. It looks very human, but then so do you.
I was going to say so do we.
Yeah. It is a lifeless creature, and vice, morality, and shadow rating. Okay. Vice is dominance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. And the virtue is not there.
I was waiting for you to put that. The virtue is also dominance.
Also dominance. No.
So no virtue.
Yeah, no virtue for this one.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And
I'm assuming they've not got a shoot rating either because they're not arisen.
They do.
Oh, hello.
So it is, in this instance, it would be 3.
Well, that's a bit cheeky. That's the same as me.
Yep. So to talk a little bit about the pillars here, as a side note, just on this discussion here, because it gives us context for what these things mean. So your understanding, the Eremite understanding of the soul, is that it is composed of various different parts, the 5 pillars that are on your character sheet. So we have Ab, the heart. We have Ba, spirit. We have Ka, which is the essence. We have Ren, which is your
name,
the sort of mystical name, which kind of means an identity, like your magical identity.
Yep.
And your Shut, which is your shadow, which isn't anything evil. It is just the thing that is sort of willing to confront things and sort of be true, I suppose. So these are the 5 aspects of the soul as far as your, like, even your living days. That's how you guys would have seen things. And that does apply to anyone who isn't, like, that's true in the cosmology right now. So everyone who walks around, every human being has pillars to a degree, because they are beings that have souls in them. So animals don't have pillars. People do. And so every human being has the 5 pillars, but they're not the same as with you, because you are further, you can use them in different ways, whereas people don't really get to call on their soul as such. But you can use these things to power different kinds of magical things. But everyone everyone that has a soul kind of has the pillars. And in this instance, though, like I said, it has an actual rating. So this is somewhat more significant than just a regular being with a spirit. But yeah, it doesn't have a virtue, and the vice is dominance, and it has a shoot of 3.
So after sort of looking at it with my death sight, I turn to Sobek and I say, "You are correct, brother. This is clearly a lifeless creature that seeks to dominate those around it. The shadow of its nature is extremely strong, almost as strong as my own. How much capability this creature has to wield it, I cannot say.
This is a interloper in our garden, brother. And like in a rem, we need to deal with these weeds before they grow into a problem. Do we deal with this ourselves, or do we bring this to the attention of our not so Meret friend?
Creatures
Sparrow?
like this are, in my opinion, like parasites. They will be found wherever humanity is found. I am not saying that we should not attempt to stop this creature, because you are correct. We clearly should. All I'm saying is that we are only active for but a short time. To the best of our knowledge, we do not know when we may awaken again.
It's true.
Aside from when the Wheel of Sothis turns. Given that there is no possible way we can keep all of these creatures out of our home, it may much as I do not like the suggestion, it may benefit us more in the long term to aid is the wrong word, to have a known factor of these creatures. For example, and I'm not saying that we should do this, if we were to keep tabs on this creature and allow it to flourish, it would surely seek to establish itself and control other such creatures. We may therefore gain an advantage by knowing our enemy, whereas if we dispatch this creature and then return to our slumber, others will surely follow, and we may not be aware of them.
You make a convincing argument, brother. However, a slight hunger in my voice. They possess a relic, and that belongs to the judges.
You are, of course, correct. I do not attempt to sway you from whatever course you may wish to pursue, and of course I will attempt to aid you as best I can. And at that point, can I ask you a quick question, Johannes?
Yes.
My chthonic dominion allows me to issue commands to revenants.
Mm-hmm.
Would this creature be classified as a revenant?
That's something you don't quite know.
I'm going to have to find it out. Spicy. So I will, obviously being aware of having chthonic dominion as an ability before losing it and then relearning it, I'll say to my brother, you are of course aware, brother, that I can summon the shades of the dead and command those that walk the world clothed in stolen or borrowed flesh.
As is the nature of your guild.
Indeed. I do not know whether my abilities would work on a creature such as this, but it is possible. It is, to the best of my knowledge, it is not something that I've tried previously. I may have done, and simply the memory has been lost to me for this cycle of our awakening.
Is today the day that you wish to find out?
If we can avoid using my abilities, I believe we should do so, since, as per our arrangement with the Red Sparrow, we are attempting to maintain a discreet presence. And obviously,
this is a bit of a wrench for me.
Obviously, were I to unveil the power of an utterance in such a crowded place, the effects would be unpredictable, but surely would not be discreet.
Yeah. See, I was woken up for this purpose, and I need to do this thing.
Mm-hmm.
I also need to get the relics.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. And the judge wants me to smite this thing. You know what? This is not... Okay.
Prioritize.
Okay.
Well, I leave the matter in your hands, brother.
I know what we should do. We should seek the wise counsel of Kasmut. That is what we should do.
Well, Kasmut has been tasked with hunting down the various Amcat.
That is true.
And may have knowledge that we lack. I believe you are correct. We should speak to our to the other member of our Meret and see.
Do we have some of our occult people around?
Feel free to have them. Now, speaking of your cult, currently it is a declining Portuguese merchant house.
How dare you?
It's not being great simply because first you established it, your trade was in different things, and by the time the tides of trade shifted to gold and silver, you weren't awake to steer them to a different direction. Not that you necessarily had the business sense to do it themselves, but anyway, it was once more prosperous. Currently, it's on the downward slope, and I guess they're hoping to make new friends with the affluent nobles that have recently arrived, so that they could maybe get some business going. But it's been fairly rough for them. But it's a merchant concern, trading ships, that kind of thing. So yeah, you can of course have your cultists in attendance if you want.
I'm gonna get one of the most obviously dressed in a merchant attire as well, and I'm going to instruct them not to get too close to this priest. But I want his movements tracked. I want to know who he's associating with, and if possible, if he is working with one of the arisen or one of the nobility here, I want to know who he's connected to. He is not going to escape the eyes of justice.
The gaze of justice.
The gaze of justice.
Is this where you got your name?
Possibly. I am thinking of changing it, maybe refining it a little bit. But yeah, my brother is right, though. We are here for a purpose, and I need to not screw the pooch.
As they say in Portugal, 1808.
So yeah, I will...
Yeah, you have tasked your cultists to spy on the Heartless, and they shall do so to the best of their ability.
But from a distance, because I believe if he gets too close, he will be able to influence them, and I do not wish them to be caught in his web.
Yeah. Yeah, they will get on that. And we will roll afterwards to see how they did. All right, so you wanted to get Kasmut's comments on the thing, or are we good with the spies? Yeah, he's there as well. So if you wave him over, he does appear, and he's wearing kind of like a sort of, I suppose, like traveling gear. That's kind of what he does. So he has like utilitarian clothing, and fairly like modest fare, because he doesn't want to stick out on the road as he goes about, or like you don't take lace to the jungle. So so he is actually carrying a sword as well, I think, like a naval sword, and he comes over, nods to the both of you, and says, my friends, do you have insights perhaps to what would be our best approach to the newcomers?
Does he mean the
court?
The court.
Yep, the secret court. Thinking you've waved him over for chit chat.
Well, the Orishas seem a rabble, but workable.
Kasmut glances at Khufu, kind of like, is that what we're saying?
But they're not alchemists, thankfully.
I just remain sort of like stony faced and don't respond because he's not wrong.
It is, of course, wonderful to have more scribes in Rio. My guild was somewhat sparse, but now, thankfully, we shall be reinforced now. But that, unfortunately, is not why I brought you over here. And I'll start going through, obviously, for the sake of Meret. Like, this is what we've noticed. This is what Khufu believes it to be. We need to deal with this creature. We need to understand it, and we also need to not let it cause us any problems. Both today for this meeting, and in future turns.
So you want to track it?
Track it, capture it, take its treasures for the judges, of course.
Indeed, I believe my brother is more focused on the retrieval of the relic that the lifeless carries.
It does not know what it has, in my eyes. It does not understand that's something that belongs to Erem, even though it didn't occur there.
All right. I will. I'll see if I can have an urchin or two, maybe. See what's going on with them, and if you want to, we can arrange an ambush at a later time. Of course, here, looking around, this would be a terrible place for a battle.
Yes,
indeed. That was why we wished to consult you. Were we to face this creature in a less public setting, we would be able to fully utilize our abilities without disturbing the fragile nature of this scenario, since our agreement with the Red Sparrow mandates that we maintain a low profile. We are somewhat hampered under these circumstances.
Yeah, it is wisdom, though, to not cause unnecessary death.
I agree.
And whatever this thing is, it seems intent on passing mortals with minimal harm at the moment.
Indeed, that is my impression as well. I believe my brother's, whilst my brother's verve and longing to retrieve the relic and return it to its rightful place with the judges does him credit, I believe, Sobek, that you should restrain your instincts for the moment for the greater cause of this meeting, and as Kasmut has wisely counselled us, as has ever been his way, we should perhaps seek out this creature and attempt to deal with it in a less public setting.
I'm also gonna establish a superstition that Sobek has dallianced with on occasion, which only you know about Khufu, because he does not really. This is like a personal, and he would not tell this to other Arisen, but he believes in a way that the Arisen, if he does his job and he brings back enough of these relics back to the judges, be they of Eremite creation or naturally occurring somehow in the world, that this will lead to Erem returning. Like, these are like the building blocks of Erem being brought back, even though the evidence for this is circumspect. So there's a reason for the hunger. There's a reason for it. It's not just greed.
So after we've talked about that basically Kasmut's got to arrange for some of his urchins to follow the Heartless, we've got some of our cult following it. Or as Kasmut suggested, our current plan is to track it down later when it's in a less public setting, and then deal with it and get the relic. Yep. So I'll turn to Kasmut and say I believe we should attend Tashrog Gemet now and discuss the current matter. Thank you as ever for your wise counsel, Kasmut.
Of course.
It is gratefully received.
I only hope that you two will be able to give wise counsel to the so-called secret court, as Well, there are 2 scribes among them, I'm given to understand, Sobek, so you should probably be able to connect with them, but I find I am not as great an orator as you would be. But luckily, I've heard from the Red Sparrow that there are 2 more laborers among them. By which you mean, that he refers to his own guild. So he is an engraver of the amulets. So he is, and I'm actually shamefully blanking out on this. What did we call those? I will quickly refresh my memory as to what the guild name was. Ma Kep, the bearers of the engraved. So he is from the guild of they call the Ma Kep the second hands, and they have a very nuanced position in both in Irem and now as Arisen, whereby they are kind of facilitators and sort of like managers whose whole point is to allow you to succeed. So the sort of idealized Ma Kep is the one that you don't see, because he's behind the curtain in the back while you're doing the show, and he's like, "That's my boy. Like we pulled it through."
He's like the roadie.
Yeah, yeah. He's the one who makes shit work for you so that you can succeed for the greater good of all. And at the same time, it's sort of understood that they are also the kind of the guardians of everyone's ideological purity, because they are the sort of power behind the throne. they sort of spy on people, and if someone starts spouting off blasphemy, then they might write a report on that.
So yeah, so as he's saying that, I'll say yes. Likewise, I have no great faculty for secrecy. I'm sure that is something that Sobek may be better equipped to handle. I far prefer taking a more straightforward approach to problems. Although, as we have just said, there are times when tempering that with caution is warranted.
Yes, I remember the times when we tempered our collective blade with our accumulated wisdom. It must have been centuries ago. I hold it close to my heart. Just, it is wonderful to be awake at the same time again, my friends. I thought to mention it because it, as I recall, it used to happen more, but now with us settling here and me being away.
Well, with any luck, Kasmut, this will not be the last time that the 3 of us are awakened at the same time.
Truly, I hope to the judges that they shall see it so. But for now, let us go and see about these new arrivals then, and what sacrifices we have to make in order to get them to make peace.
Indeed. Lead on.
So the 3 of you get with Teshra Gemet, and you go off to talk to O Corte Segredo. So we cut to a later scene whereby you have met with the secret court, and I'll pull up their pictures now. We've seen a bunch of their pictures already, but we're going to refresh our memories, as is the fate of mummies. So there are formal introductions, so everyone knows who everyone else is. So first off, we have Apheb Medes, the moon snake, who is also an engraver of amulets. He's also Makep, which you already remembered in present times as well. We have Bantanath, the artificer of secrets, who is a scribe. We have Ibsheta, a wonderful man, whose title is the Guillotine of Innocence. We have Sarkons, a scribe as well.
And we've not met this person in modern.
No, modern day, no.
No.
Yeah. And there's one more that we haven't met yet, which we now will meet in the past, because that's the kind of game we're playing.
That's just how it is.
Yeah, that's how we roll. So we also meet Nekaka, the Flail of Eternity, who is also an engraver of amulets. So,
not an alchemist.
No, there's two Makep, two scribes, Sesha Hebsu, and Ibsheta is Tef Abi, an architect. Two laborers, two scribes, architects.
Of course he is. Now, is there a reason they all came together? Is it just
yes,
like a...
They are a Meret that has fled. This is for us to like compress the meeting. Yeah. You meet. There's an exchange of formalities. Teshra Gemet, and this matches. This is nothing new, and you've come to accept it for what it is. Teshra Gemet more or less presents herself as the nomarch, which is to say the leader of the gnome, which is to say this particular district of the world. And it's not explicit at all. This is a thing as well with the Red Sparrow. Everything is kind of a little bit folded in. It's never like, bow down to me for I am king. It's more about like, welcome. I bid you welcome. Also, you've probably seen that I'm wearing a gold suit, and these are my friends here who attend me because I asked them to. These are my servants. That's my house. It's never like direct in that way.
You know who's in charge, but I don't have to point it out.
Her thing is making a point without having to say
it. This is my pimp cane.
Yeah.
Over there is my transportation. Here are all my servants.
If you wish to start beef, look, we are ready.
Yeah. So she presents herself as the nominal leader of the area, of the native mummies. So as native as mummies can be, because you're always colonists wherever you go. Because
I'm enjoying the fact that basically she's like had our cult to wake us up, so that when she's like, yes, I'm the leader of this area, we can be like, yeah.
And you exchange pleasantries. Everyone's complimenting everyone. You exchange names and titles so that everyone knows who's who. And the Ocorte Segredo mummies are looking a little bit rough. And for you, that's clear what that means. They're running low on Sekhem. And from what Teshra Gemet has told you, they didn't plan on this, and probably not a lot of the Portuguese did when Napoleon conquered their entire country. But this is somewhat of a forced relocation to Ocorte Segredo because of the French invasion. And they've had some rough times, and every one of them is running low on Sekhem. They're looking tired and sort of wasting away. And you, of course, learn all their names. You know what they look like. You know their guilds. And Bantanath represents herself as the leader of Ocorte Segredo. You notice they have a whole bunch of various cultists around, most of them nobles of some kind. And they seem to be quite prone to being drunk as shit would be the favorable way to describe them at the moment.
Yeah.
They are attended to by people who seem to be living the good life in all senses of the word here, and it's part of this sort of ceremony that you have, that you establish like the sort of domains of your cults so that you don't step on each other's toes by accident, because that's part of the diasporic code. Don't fuck with each other's cults unless you want to cause a lot of bloodshed. So they outline more or less that these people, most of them from these thousands of people that came with these ships, they're our cult. So don't mess with our business, and we'll do the same favor to you.
But remember, they're here by our.
At which point I'm going to.
Our agreement, I suppose. So just after I think of a polite way of saying, "Don't mess with us. We're here first."
I think as a potential way of both testing their worth and also potentially solving a problem for us, I'm going to say, of course, something on the lines. Of course, we understand that the vast majority of people who have travelled over here on the ships are your cults, and are, of course, will remain free of any interference on our behalf. I take it you are aware of the presence of a lifeless creature skulking amongst your cultists.
I think you'll just get raised eyebrows.
An awkward silence. Oh, that's not good.
I'll give a description of the priest from earlier, and I'll say the abilities of myself and my brother Sobek have enabled us to determine that this is a creature known to us as a heartless creature, a lifeless blasphemy, and one that carries a potent relic with it. Given the delicate nature of these proceedings and our wish that they go smoothly, we have not taken any action against the creature as such, because it was mingling with your people at the time, and we did not wish to cause any interference. But I thought, in the spirit of our new cohabitation, that I would point to this out to you in case it is something that you wish to deal with yourselves.
Bantanath glances at Apep Medes, who gives a slight nod, and
of course, if you require assistance from us, we are more than happy, in the spirit of this meeting, to render what aid we can.
Bantanath gives a slight bow of her head and says, "You are most attentive. We shall deal with this rat. They sometimes get on the ships, as you no doubt are aware of. It is no matter."
Of course, I am more than confident in your ability to deal with it. But as I've said, in the spirit of our new arrangement, I'll say, sort of gesturing around and let the land around us, if you should require any help from either myself or any of my colleagues, please do not hesitate to ask.
Of course, and we do appreciate the offer. The extended hand is always better than one clenched in a fist, says Bantanath.
I quite agree.
And you can see in the distance, Apep Medes walks up to a group of nobles, and they're kind of too far gone to drink. And he like raises one up from the ground, like just grabs this man with from the tunic that he's wearing, and just like pulls him up and is forcefully talking to him about something. And the man is kind of wobbly, just trying to haul his liquor in. And the rest of them seem to be kind of like frozen in place, just seeing what's going to happen. And Medes turns his attention from this man that he holds up to the other ones who are kind of like, maybe they're sitting on a patch of grass, sort of picnic style, there with their drinks and some tasty treats. And he like says something to them, and they are sort of slowly starting to gather their stuff. And he tosses the drunkard down, and you can hear all the way from there as he steps on the man's leg, his knee, and there's an audible breaking of bone, tendons, and the man's sort of shout is cut short as he passes out from the excruciating pain as Abemedes crushes his knee against the ground. And yeah, the rest of them get their stuff from the ground and they scamper the fuck away from him. And yeah, so he apparently, Abemedes, the moon snake, is on it. He's on the ball.
I don't remember him being so active.
Yeah, last we met him, he seemed awfully dead. But yeah, he's tending to whatever it is that they understand between him and Bantanath, presumably related to the Heartless.
So when I get a bit of a moment, I'll say to Sobek, well, it would appear that the issue of the lifeless has been resolved. As I have said, this will both save us the trouble of dealing with the matter, and is also a handy test for this new Meret of Arisen to see whether they can deal with the matter. For after all, it does not make a difference to myself who returns the item in question. I'll say, obviously, like referring to the artifact, but like trying to keep it in sort of veiled terms in case anyone's listening in. It does not matter who returns the item to its rightful place, as long as it is returned.
You are correct, of course, brother.
I'm aware of your desire to hand it into the care of the judges personally, but
I would not say I don't trust my brethren in this, but I like to do a job well.
Well, look at it this way. We are already having the creature followed. If they dispatch it, our agents will see that and we will be made aware of it. If they do not then return the item to its rightful place, we will know that they cannot be trusted. Whereas if they do, we may know that perhaps we can extend our hand a little more certain of their motives.
And no doubt, assisting in the negotiations will endear us to the Sparrow.
Indeed. And also, since we know that a deal is being done and that this Corte Sigredo is apparently, at least for the moment, here to stay in Rio, there is no harm in us opening peaceful relations with them, since, given that our kind can last for eternity, we may be spending an awful lot of time in proximity to them. So
despite our differences, we all are from Rem.
Indeed. So why not set, as they've said, why not extend a hand of friendship now, in the hope that perhaps it will pay dividends for us in the future?
Can I ask a random question?
Well,
meeting these.
Do you like cheese?
Yeah, we're meeting these for the first time. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
in the chronology.
Yeah.
Did this spark any memory of meeting them in a REM? Oh, is that?
No, Irem is very difficult for you to remember at all. So your living days are kind of the most difficult thing for you to recall.
That's fair.
Because it's the most distant part of you as well. But yeah, this that is actually something good on you, because I would have forgotten this. I was thinking about it, but that was like a week ago, so I forgot about it and I didn't write it down. You remember,
You're welcome.
not in 1808, but in 2016, you remember that you had met Sarkons in Rome, in sort of from 60 to 120 Common Era, Rome.
Okay.
You know that Sarkons was there, and you specifically, because you're a scribe, she's a scribe, you were there at the same time, and you probably knew each other in Rome. And Khufu probably knew Sarkons as well, because you guys hang tight. So
That's the Uberlet of Flowers.
yes.
Okay.
And in modern day, you will remember two very different persons. So Sarkons was very different during the Roman memories that you have, and the 1808 and ever since memories that
Something's
you
happened
have.
to them.
Yes, something's changed with Sarkons. Back in Rome, you recall her as being, she was ostensibly like an embodiment of poetry. Like, she was all about the written word as art, so to speak. So she was a poet. She was attended to by a cult of prominent poets. She inspired literary arts, that kind of thing, and was a patron of the arts, of literacy and writing in general. And 1808, she looks like a debauched noble. And yeah. From Khufu's memories of Sarkons, because you don't have them saw back in the modern day, Khufu has some vague recollections of having seen Sarkons. As we have in the picture here, there's a slight description. So again, here's the picture. Sarkons' visage is that of a delicate young woman with Arab features in casual, even skimpy clothing, and that will remain true for all your like modern day recollections. And in your a visit to Ibn Sheta's place as well, you saw Sarkons there. She was dressed basically for like a BDSM party at that point in time. Very different memories from very different time periods, and Sarkons has definitely changed along her existence.
And that's it. See, alas, when I meet her in Ibsheta in the future at the Copacabana, you'll still be like tucked up in bed.
Yep. But that's something very good of you to bring that up, because I would have forgotten to mention this, because this is the one person that you actually do remember from both flashbacks. So good times.
I was curious because it might have stirred something up in me when I met them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now you have like facets of comparison for Sarkons from previous times in modern day as well. Right. What else? Because John's going away for a bit. Mm-hmm.
Do they appear to be thankful to be here, or kind of reluctant? If you know what I mean, like what is their attitude towards us in general?
Well, they seem to have come here to stay, is the vibe you get from them.
It wasn't planned.
Yeah, they didn't plan for this, but this is what they're doing now. And as much is apparent from the fact that basically the arrival of the entire Portuguese court here has overturned everyone else's plans for Rio, to be sure. They can do that. And if it's true what they say, that, oh, we have lots of cultists in this armada of nobles, they can do just that, because they have both the money and the right to do that. So basically they didn't really necessarily plan to relocate to Rio, but they can do whatever the fuck they want, because they have the nobles on their side, and the nobles can do whatever the fuck they want. So that's sort of the vibe, is like, yeah, we're doing this now, and you better get with the program, I guess. Like, hopefully you will be able to understand that we are coming to stay. Is the vibe.
We'll work something out.
Yeah. They're not like overtly hostile, but they're coming in like, well, we are going to be here, so, and we have the nobles, so
this is happening whether you want it to
yeah,
or not.
yeah.
Well, I think given that we remember seeing Sakonsu in Rome at some point, while, like say, we've like compressed it at some point while we're circulating, I'll probably make a remark to Sakonsu, and I'll say it. And how
I'll be a little bit more cagey. See, I want to see if she remembers.
I see. I'm not cagey at all. I'm straight in there. I'm no
You're not a
nonsense.
scribe, my man.
That's right. I'm not. I'm gonna go in there, and I'm just gonna say, "Oh, Sakonsu, it's good to see you again. How has the world been treating you since Rome?"
She stares at you for a little bit, and sort of like a far away glance to the side. I hardly recall those days. That was a long time ago.
Indeed, it was. Alas, the thoughts of many of our kin that Rome was somehow a new Irem did not prove to be the case. I would like smile.
I would like to think that we have all outgrown such childish fantasies. The centuries have proven true, and not all of us like the truth of the centuries, I suppose.
Indeed, it has been my experience that there are only two things that are eternal in this world. One, of course, being ourselves, and the second being the records of deeds and the myths, the legends, and the traditions that the mortals leave behind. For although their lives may be short, the knowledge that they can pass on in word, writing, song, etc., are the true monument to their kind.
I think were you and I to have a little sit down, we could eventually make a scribe out of you.
Perhaps. Well, with any luck, given that the Corte Segredo is moving here, although I lament, much as I'm glad to have you all here, I lament the necessity that forced it upon you. But perhaps we will have such an opportunity at some point in the future.
And let us all hope that the troubles of Europe are long behind us all, and we can focus on that which matters most.
Indeed, and as I'm sure you have gathered from what Teshra Gamet has been saying, our main concern is the marshalling of all the arisen that reside in Rio for the betterment of all of us and our surroundings.
Remarkably committed of you to pursue, I suppose some would call it the greater good. It is fascinating.
Well, it seems a rational transaction to my mind. After all, given our nature, we could be dwelling here for an awfully long time. So why not make it as good a place to dwell for ourselves and of course for others as possible?
We are all bathed in your radiant hospitality. And with her words, in the distance, you hear a bellow that in your memory, it seemed to perhaps shake the ground a little bit. You're not sure if that was right or correct. And in the distance, approaching, because you're kind of dispersed, but still like talking amongst yourselves. There's like every arisen that we've mentioned so far here is sort of like in this area, getting acquainted, talking. You know that the Red Sparrow is cutting deals because that's what she do, and manipulating people, and you're doing your part as well. And in the distance, approaching this sort of melange of mortals and the arisen talking, making power plays and arrangements for the future, like basically dividing who gets what and all this. In the distance, you have a figure of a man dressed in very modest, almost like peasant clothing, who is striding with strong, confident, some would say furious steps towards the lot of you. And he is absolutely radiating Sekhem. He has recently used some form of magic. You know this to be a member of the first Meret, which I will now get the picture of out there. And it is this one. It's another one of the Subaris pictures. So this is Amun Ruby, the Granite Sphinx. So in his normal visage, he appears as a tall, broad-shouldered man of Nubian descent with gray hair and a thin beard. And unlike the description, which continues to say that's the modern-day Amun Ruby in the last sentence there, but currently his eyes blaze with fire, figuratively, maybe even literally. He
I feel like this was an unplanned interruption.
He power walks.
Yeah, he's basically just gone, "Yeah!" And then he's
And
unplanned.
he walks forward with the quickness, and you hear a second bellow, which definitely shakes the ground a little bit and turns a lot of eyes, and it's Buntanoth! And
Oh right, here we go.
Everyone's like, what is this shit? There's a number of nobles who react to this because they see
Subaris.
a man in peasant clothing, Nubian descent. There's a bunch who are like, oh shit, it's one of the slaves going off. There's a nobleman who gets up and is like, oh no, I'm going to deal with this stuff before anyone gets hurt.
Oh, no.
Just like steps in front of them. Amun Ruby just like grabs the guy, and there's just like not even stopping to deal with him. It's just like grabs the guy, squeezes a bit, dude cows down. And, you can see there's.
Why am I thinking of coconuts? Why am I? Oh.
And there's a couple of what passes for, I suppose, like naval personnel, because town guard isn't such a thing necessarily, but there's like military people around now. Some of them attend the scene because a person just died, but there's cultists there to damage control. This was something you had discussed previously with the Red Sparrow. Like, if something goes down, we will have talked to some of our own cultists to put the lid on the thing if necessary. So there's cultists converging on the scene. And
I'm just gotta say, man, like I love the fact that, like, in modern day, like a lot of the Arisen was sort of like made a big deal about how like myself and Sobek had like stayed fairly neutral, and like earlier on in the game, I was like, oh, surely it's not such a big thing. But like every time we meet any other Arisen, there's always some like WWE like grudge match going on between like a couple of them.
Yep.
So I'm like, do you know what? Actually, yeah, I can see why they think it's a big deal. Because all the rest of them are like, you wronged me 6,000 years ago, and I will have my vengeance. And we're just like, yeah, we sort of get on with everybody if we can, you know.
And after Amun Ruby shouts, like, you know, Amun Ruby, he's not very active. He's from the first Meret. You don't see those guys a whole lot. And Amun Ruby especially, you see almost never. But you do remember him. After he's shot...
He's come down here specifically for Bantanath.
Yes. So he, after he yells out Bantanath's name, you can actually see, and of course he's using an utterance. He's starting to form an utterance of you don't know what utterance it is, but he's formulating the first syllables of the utterance.
So as he's doing that, I'm gonna summon the earth, because like the utterance, like, cat's out of the bag now, and occultists are like doing damage control. So I'm gonna like summon the earth to like armor myself.
I'm gonna do something slightly more subtle.
I don't really do subtle.
Can I do this? Oh, is this only on me? Hang on. I believe I can. It doesn't say I can. I don't think. I want to put rebuke the vizier on Bantanath.
Okay, so you're as he's starting to use the utterance. You want to use your own
to protect Bantanath.
Yeah. Well, what you're doing is you're countering. You're singing against him. To shut him down.
And I'm literally, in case that doesn't work, as I'm summoning the armor, I'm like stepping in front of Bantanath, so I'm between him and Ammon Ruby.
Yep. Okay, so is there a roll associated with your thing?
I think it just happened.
Which level are we talking?
This would be the level. I believe this is the level 1. A ward against supernatural powers, doing so in cases the arisen with an invisible shell.
That gives you resistance.
But it doesn't say I can't give it to somebody else. As far as I know.
Doing so in cases the arisen, which is you.
Okay.
Yep. So it gives you resistance.
And tier 3 target.
So tier 2 would be applicable for sure. It's something that you can use actively against something instead of waiting passively for the something to hit you.
If I can nullify what he's doing, I will. And try and engage words.
So make an opposed roll of the aggressor's Sechem against the higher of your Sechem or Ka. I presume it's Sechem because your Sechem is 5. And your Ka is most certainly not. Okay, so we're going to... have a roll off.
I roll 5 dice because my second is currently 5.
Yep, you roll 5, and Amun Ruby rolls 5 as well.
Okay. I'm gonna have to do this manually. I don't think I can roll.
Yeah, you just do that.
Okay. I got 2 successes.
2. Okay, so Amun Ruby is gonna roll.
You know what? As soon as I saw that picture, I was like, well, here's trouble.
Well, I have bad news for you, my man. I have bad news for you.
I can use willpower to reroll dice, can't I?
You can add 3 dice to your roll.
I will do that because this is a scribe.
You would have done that before, but we can certainly do it now because you didn't have the roll to mind. So you can get the 3 extra on there. And I hope to the judges that you're at 4 and he's at 5. So
never mind. Never mind. I tried.
Yeah, and so you start speaking the rebuke, the vizier, to cast down his utterance, but his soul soars on wings of absolute hatred.
Harm thy mane, Granite thinks.
What?
Harm thy mane.
Yeah. So Amun Ruby speaks the first syllable successfully because your utterance was not able to overpower it, and the ground is shaking a little bit. And he speaks the second utterance as he's still power walking towards you, and things dim, and it is you don't know at all what this is, but you can tell from whatever magic Amun Ruby is currently summoning, it's something you have no idea about, and it seems to be heading to a very bad place very quickly. And there's a number of the mummies here, of course, that also pick up on, things are happening. So there's, I think, they form they step up. They form a sort of line amongst yourselves there, and there's those of you who are local. So Khufu, you're free to do whatever you want, but Kasmut and Teshru are screaming in Eremite against the overpowering utterance that is washing over everyone here, for Amun Ruby to cease whatever he's doing.
Yeah.
And
Well, as I say, I'm just armouring up and stepping in front of Bantanath, so I'm like between him and Amun Ruby.
yeah, and Amun Ruby holds the third syllable back of the utterance, and he's sort of standing next to the lot of you, the court, yourselves, and Kasmut and Teshru. Yeah, sorry.
Can I say that despite everything that's going on due to my charmed lives thing, that my drink is perfectly like stable?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just-
you still have your drink of choice to hand.
That's brilliant. These are the small things that matter, you see.
So Amun Ruby is standing there now, positively for those of you with supernatural senses, because he's basically holding in his spiritual hands a terrifying power, such as utterances to be when taken to the full extent. He's holding it back. So basically, he's holding in his hands like this spiritual destruction, and he's full on radiating power from the magic that he's conjured, and he's standing there staring through everyone else at Bantanath, and Teshru is off to the side because she's realized now that Amun Ruby isn't going to let it go just now. So Teshru is immediately stepping up forward, and she is trying her damnedest, using all her guile to talk Amun Ruby down. He doesn't seem to hear her at all, and he's staring at Bantanath, who is staring back, but not really sure what's going on. And Amun Ruby says through gritted teeth, and you can see, because he's holding so much power that the Subar is wafting off of him, you can see his corpse form. So it's this tall, withered Amun Ruby that you can see, because he's currently channeling the power that overpowers his sort of imagined self. So you can see the corpse of Amun Ruby staring at Bantanath as it says through like shrunken gums, what happened in cottage, and where is my daughter? And Bantanath is just dumbfounded. Like she's looking around, looking to you, because you're locals, you're supposed to know this guy. She's looking at everyone just like, I don't know.
I'm having like a quick flashback to the Tesha Gamet telling me, give us like the roster and mentioning the first Meret and be like, oh, they probably won't show up. They're kind of passive and have been for centuries.
Yeah, that was entirely the game plan.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
They don't.
It was like, they'll be fine. And then I'm just like, well, what do we got? We got nothing now.
So I'm, because as I think we've probably established, I'm not particularly diplomatic. I'm more a straightforward. Let's fucking get into it. I'm going to say back in Eremite, still sort of stood between the two of them, sort of armoured up. I'm going to say Carthage was many years ago. Do you even think that the Arisen stood behind me will remember what happened then? And like before they get a chance to respond, I'm going to say, and even if they do you think that the best way of finding the information you need is for a once proud Arisen, someone who has lived and will live for an eternity, to shout their demands on the streets like a common brawler, unveiling themselves in front of the mortals here and putting not just yourself but all of our kind at risk? Do you honestly believe this is the best way to find out the information that you want?
So he eventually starts hearing some of the words that you're saying to him, and he turns to look at you as if like shaking himself. Oh, there's someone talking to me now, and he listens to you, and
Once I see he's listening, I'm going to carry
Yeah.
on. I'm going to say, we are here to welcome these newcomers to this land, to sit down, to discuss matters with them. If you have questions for the Arisen who stands behind me, join this meeting, ask your questions. There is no need for this. I would not see someone as proud and noble as yourself let your darker emotions get the better of you and sully your good name with such behaviour. Would it not be preferable for you to join us and ask your questions like the proud, civilised immortals that we are, have been, and always will be? We are not street brawlers.
so he listens to you, and there's after you finish, there's a spell of silence. Even because Teshrugemet is sort of letting you, because you stepped up. Teshrugemet lets you do the talking. She was trying to, but you stepped in, and everyone's sort of quiet for a bit. There's only like the peripheral noises of like Subaris bleeding into the populace here. Things are getting kind of weird for the nobles partying around. So Amun Ruby stares at you, having listened to you, continues to stare at you for a full 2 minutes. No one moves.
That's fine. I'm going to be like staring back at him without blinking.
Meanwhile, like for me, myself, because John's been, I didn't want to jump John talking. I'm doing some intense, like going through the scribe files in my brain. You know, the parchments, the stone granite. Like, do I know? Has he ever mentioned his daughter before? Have I met her? Do I know who she is? Is she an alchemist? Do I care?
Is she an Arisen? Because if not, that'd be weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't seem to have a lot of search hits in your memory at the time. You do remember Carthage being a place, though, which the Romans talked about sometimes.
I feel like we got another flashback coming on some point.
That's why I didn't say how long ago it was. I'm assuming I don't remember it fully, so I was like, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, and of course, that's true to some extent as well. That you might remember, let's say, Rome, but unless you have very specific things that happened, you might not have any way to tell like which century Rome that was. You might be off by like 300 years, unless you actually saw like a date at some point, because things in antiquity, of course, they changed much slower. So if we're talking like ancient societies, you might be like, I was in Carthage. Then someone who actually knows about history and timelines might be like, oh, well, which part of this like 800 years of history are you talking about? But yeah, so you don't remember any of this, what he was just saying, except that the Romans were talking about Carthage being one of their enemies at one point when you were awake in Rome. And as well, the poets probably talked about Carthage a fair deal. And you hung around with Sarkons, who had a lot of poet friends. So Amun Ruby stares at Khufu for a full 2 minutes with no one moving, only the distant sort of chaos of Subaris in the background. And Amun Ruby reaches out and is going to put a hand, Khufu, on your arm as you stand there in your stone.
It's fine. I'm
encased.
I'm sort of tensed in case like we need to like throw down, but I'm going to let him do that because he's not actually done anything violent.
So
yeah,
he's putting a hand on your arm there. You can't feel it because it's stone currently on the surface, but he's squeezing a bit, and he stares at you still in your stone eyes.
Yeah, I'm still staring back.
Yeah, and he says, You have always been a friend to me, Khufu.
Then heed my counsel now. End this spectacle. Come sit with us as a brother and ask your questions.
So what he does is he takes his hand back. He turns to walk the same way he stormed in, and he says absolutely nothing to anyone. And Sobek, I think you need to actively use your god sight to get it to do the thing.
Okay, I'll do the thing.
Yeah. So I was just gonna say that, like, because of the circumstances, is that something you've been doing, like using your god sight here?
Oh yeah, I would switch to on as soon as we start talking rather than fighting.
Yeah. So Amun Ruby was the utterance to your god sight's impressionistic view of things. Amun Ruby was holding something with his utterance, which as they spoke and the stare contest went on, you get the impression of a mat being weaved with traditional techniques. I don't have the vocabulary personally to explain that, but if you guys are familiar with how traditional carpets are being woven with those extremely nice and interesting wooden contraptions which align all the different threads to make the actual carpet.
Very dangerous to use if you're not careful.
Yeah, it's a lot of clacking parts which can smack your fingers. But you get the idea of these like strands of twine, and Amun Ruby like pressing on them to the straining point, and you can sort of, in your impressionistic eye of the god sight, because it doesn't tell you what things exactly are, but there's strands which go from Amun Ruby's like clenched fist, which seems to sort of like press on strands of twine that are attached to the fist, that seem to the other end of each piece of twine is sort of like pulling towards his fist. So in your mind's eye, you see, let's say the nearest ship has twine go around the main mast, and the mast is being pulled towards Amun Ruby. So the ship is going to capsize real soon. The stones of the pier are being loosened by the strand tied to his fist. There's a man who's about to tumble into his own crystalline goblet, which will then impale him.
Actively going to happen, or is this an impression of what he
This
could do?
is something that he holds the potential to in his fist. So basically, he's pressing on the strands of fate somehow, you think, and if he lets go, things are going to go really bad for everyone, though you don't exactly know how. But
he hasn't done that yet.
No, he held it back, but he was conjuring something which would have laid out a big curse, is your impression of things, and it would have been quite the curse indeed. But he goes away, the utterance fizzles away from his hand, he walks away.
So the strands kind of dissipate from his grasp.
Yeah, they dissipate entirely.
I'm gonna give Tesha Gemet a very rare, this is very expression, which is essentially my what the fuck face. Like, how do we know this wasn't gonna happen? Like,
she gives you the eyes that say, "Stay on target." Stay with the program. I guess we might leave it there with everyone being a little bit flabbergasted with that, given the clock and our collective tiredness from the week's labors. So unless you have something we want to deal with right quick, or add to, we could jump scenes as well if you want to have another thing here.
I'm good. I think I've done all that I want to do.
I think so. I think many questions, but nothing that I I want that relic.
Although I've got to say, I love the fact that I'm like fucking sorting all these people out in the past, and then bloody Sobek's raking in the benefits in 2016. It is me like saving like Banternoth, and bloody Sobek sat down with him in the future.
I tried to save Banternoth.
Secret call.
Right? I coughed. Right. Well, the rum made me like little. Just slightly too late to nullify that horse shit. Whatever he was about to do.
That's the technical term. That's the Eremite term for it.
The Eremite term.
All I was like is I'm like, oh, big lion man romping towards someone screaming, the ground shaking, whatever he's going to do. I don't need to be in Arisen to know it's not going to be good.
Yep. Yep. That is true. So there's, we'll just wrap it up for 1808 with a short montage of how things went in the immediate future from this point on. So eventually, Amun Ruby and Bantanath, as well as yourselves and Teshra Gemet, end up in the same room. Teshra Gemet, with your help, has pulled a magnificent diplomatic maneuver and gotten these two people to talk and try and figure this stuff out so that everyone can coexist in Rio. This is more or less exactly what the Red Sparrow, as far as you remember, has she strives for this to use her skills to get people to not rock the boat here.
She's still an alchemist, though.
So yeah, she is, and yeah, everything that's true about alchemists is probably true about the Red Sparrow as well. So in the meeting, and it's not very long, but it is considerably more peaceful. Everyone's had a little bit of time to think about what happened last time, and it boils down to Amun Ruby. This is what you remember from this. This is your takeaway from the meeting. Amun Ruby and Bantanath used to be in a Meret in Carthage at some point in history. And then something happened, and they were no longer in the same place. But Amun Ruby remembers that they were a Meret, and in their Meret were his current friends in the first Meret. So first Meret consists of Amun Ruby, Husani, and Konsneb Ach, who we haven't seen yet. But these three people are the first Meret as we know them now. But everyone in the first Meret was a part of the Meret back in Carthage. The Carthaginian Meret consisted of two more people in addition to the first Meret. And those two people were Bantanath and Chatuluga, the daughter of Amun Ruby. So these five people were the Carthaginian Meret at some point. Something happened. The first Meret is now here, and the two previous members, Bantanath and Chatuluka, were somewhere else. And Amun Ruby is grilling Bantanath about having answers to some of these questions that he has, because he was in Carthage. He woke up somewhere very far away. What happened? Tell me, because I wasn't awake for that. And what happened to my daughter? Where is my daughter?
So when he says this, does he mean his literal daughter? He's not.
Yes.
It's not a title.
No, literal daughter, who is also an Arisen, apparently.
I feel almost a kinship, because obviously I have a brother.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
yeah, and these things are rare, as far as you understand.
I understand. But also, he went about it in a very undiplomatic manner. So it's like...
So Bantanath is very cool, very, as in cold, in the meeting, and she only replies that she has no answers to some of these questions, or any of these. Yep.
I have a
Sobek?
question.
Yes.
And this is an epilogue, but
Mhm.
am I? Because obviously my sights and
Yeah.
being a scribe, am I able to tell that she's lying? I know that she's not.
No.
She's not my boss at this stage, maybe.
Yeah. I don't.
So
I don't think that's a part of any of your senses, actually.
you know,
Like mundane lies is the one thing I don't think your magical net of eyeballs can
just
catch.
wait. I'll get one
Yeah.
more lens.
Yeah. The lie, or you could just use your intuition, your insight into people.
That's what I think. Can I find out if she's figuring out if she's lying?
Yeah.
If she does know, and she's like, there's more. Like she knows either she knows where her daughter is, his daughter is, but like she's protecting her for whatever reason,
Hmm.
or she's ashamed of what happened, or such like.
Yeah. So you can give us a roll. Wits, insight, or what are the skills that could be used for this? Let me take a look. So I'm looking at your sheet here.
Possibly manipulation. No, maybe not.
Social. So
Oh sure.
yeah, subterfuge is the thing here.
I don't have any skills in
Or
subterfuge.
empathy. You have one in that.
Empathy.
So.
I have empathy.
Yeah. Wits, empathy. I
It's
think.
empathy. Can I use a willpower in this?
Yes.
Or
Yes,
is
you
that
can.
being
Three
cheeky?
dice.
3 extra dice. So yeah, roll this and then add the bonus. See, I'll do it right this time. All that.
Yeah. She is quite truthful.
Okay.
When she says, "I cannot answer your questions, Amun Ruby, because I do not remember these things that you speak of. I remember Carthage. I remember it burning." And there's more talk, of course, of these matters. This is compressed as well for our convenience here. But that was after the time you speak of. When I fled Carthage, that was centuries after. Anything that you said could have happened. I have no answers for you, Amun Ruby, she says. And Amun Ruby has to sit with that. He has to deal with that fact. And they conclude the meeting with Amun Ruby relenting his fervent, objection to having the secret court in Rio. And so, O Corte Secreto settles in Rio when Amun Ruby says they can, because he was the number one opponent of them doing so after all the talks were done and over.
As the kind of senior scribe in Rio at that time,
mm-hmm.
Can I use that authority in any manner in this scene? In a sense, to say to this massive lion head, that obviously I don't know where his daughter is,
mm-hmm.
and it's clear that Bantanath has been speaking the truth here. Otherwise, she has no reason to lie to you. But I will try and send word out throughout the world, through our cult and through the scribes, to see if we can find any word of your daughter. We are all Eremites, and we should all be able to find each other out there. She will be somewhere.
Yeah, you can definitely get on that. You don't really need the authority of any kind of guild status for that.
Put the task.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, Amun Ruby will of course appreciate that. But yeah, you know that after these discussions, O Corte Secreto has, as everyone does, concluded negotiations with the Red Sparrow, dealt with Amun Ruby now, and they're settling in. Rio is starting to shape into the new iteration of itself as the years go on. And you know that immediately after the meeting with Bantanath, Amun Ruby goes back to his tomb and descends months before his second would have run out, which is not really what you're supposed to do, because you're supposed to be here and do the job. But he basically just, he leaves, doesn't say anything to anyone, goes to his tomb and dies.
He's seriously cut up about his daughter, but I can understand. I wouldn't know what to do if I didn't have Khufu around.
But that's I think that's where we're gonna fade out, with Amon Ruby going to his. It's a cave. There's a stone tomb there, cut into the wall, and he lays down. You can see there's relics of his tomb, and he lays down on the stone surface, and he's Sahus. He's Sekhem infused self-image dissipates, and what is left is his dried corpse laying in repose. And that's where we end. Roll credits.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for running that. Very much enjoyed it.
Yep. Thank you for playing.
I shall end the stream here.